I want to dive deeper into the stimulus package and all the latest virus issues. I want to bring in now David Schuster. He's a political reporter. Also, Joseph Pinion, GOP strategist. Both you guys, thanks so much for coming on there. We heard the doctor talk about the medical and health risks, but earlier today we heard about what's happening with the stimulus package. There seems to be a little bit of confusion because it's hard to kind of understand. There are phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. David, I'll let you take this away. How can we better understand what exactly is happening with our government?
Well, the biggest package in order to try to save the economy, to stimulate, to help workers is going to be this thing called phase 3. And that's where you're talking about something that may be $1.5 trillion. That's where you heard Lindsey Graham saying, well, we should focus primarily on people who have lost money because from their employers. The problem with that is that it underscores that there's a disconnect between what Lindsey Graham and some others in Congress think and what's really going on, because there's so many people out there who work for themselves, who don't necessarily have a corporate or large business employer, and those people are not bringing in any money. So under Lindsey Graham's proposal, they would be lost. The second part about this is that for Congress, for the Senate to get through this $1 trillion package by Monday, which is when they think the markets need to hear this in order for the markets not to take another nosedive, I mean, that is light speed for the U.S. Senate. I mean, that's almost impossible. And, oh, by the way, in the Senate, you're going to need 60 votes to get it done. So it has to be a bipartisan bill. You have to get at least, a group of Democrats. So it's an unbelievable task that Congress is trying to pursue.
Joe, let me bring you in on this here. It will need bipartisan support. Your thoughts on that?
Look, I think what we're witnessing right now is a bipartisan disconnect from Main Street and the average American, right? You've got Lindsey Graham out here, God bless him, talking about, payroll taxes. There are a lot of Americans who aren't necessarily even getting the paycheck right now. You've got flight attendants laid off. You've got bartenders, stuck at home. You've got people who drive for Uber right now who are now trying to pick up Uber Eats shifts because the customers are down in precipitously. So I think when you're actually just talking about the needs and concerns of the average American, bailing out the airlines still doesn't give money to flight attendants because they're paying to put airplanes in hangars that are grounded. Making sure that you're giving money to, automakers or things of that nature doesn't make sure that you're getting those people back on the line. We have people in dire need of cash. We have a Main Street liquidity problem that will make 2008 look like a pittance if we don't actually get serious about making sure that the average American is being taken care of.
Well, let me ask you this, because to dive into it for the everyday Americans that will understand this, there will be a $1,000 check sent out. That is in one of the proposals. How does that help? It's being titled a stimulus, but in this place, you're not spending the money out and about. It is a support at this point to pay your bill.
I mean, first and foremost, you have to be able to target who has the need. You're still going to have a vast, robust portion of Americans who are still getting paychecks, right? People who can work from home. But what we're not addressing right now are those individuals who are bartenders in places like New York, waitresses in places like New York. Those are individuals who $1,000 is not necessarily going to go as far as.
So are you saying it's not enough, I guess?
Well, I think you have to be able to adjust it for cost of living. $1,000 in Banks, Oregon is very different for $1,000 in New York City. And if you're spreading that money across and giving it to people who aren't in need of that cash, then it makes it more difficult for us to get the dollars in the robust amount we need to the people who need it.
Yeah, he's talking about means testing. And one of the things, in addition to making sure that the people who are actually going to spend this money, as opposed to, let's suppose, people who, upper middle class, wealthy Americans, if the idea is not only to help people pay their bills, but also to stimulate the economy, well, what happens if somebody takes that $1,000, puts it in their bag or puts it under their mattress or doesn't do anything with it? Then that money's not circulating through the economy. Whereas if you give the money to people who are going to spend it on rent or necessities, then the money not only helps them, but it also circulates through the economy and sparks economic activity, which is the other part of this goal.
Yeah, I mean, they were talking about buying $1 trillion in corporate paper, which is what Steve Mnuchin said yesterday. Let's be very clear. You give $30 billion to telecoms, they're not going to suddenly waive your phone bill from AT&T or Verizon, right? That is money that goes to shore up their bottom line. Those customers are still going to be hit with that bill that goes on for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. We need a Main Street intervention that is mean tested, and we need it today.
It's a legitimate concern. We're going to continue to monitor that, but it's good to have both of you guys on. I appreciate your time. It's David Schuster, political reporter, and Joseph Pinion, GOP strategist. Guys, stick around for just a bit.